So that was some time ago, and now they reduced the amount of time. And then, according to Amy and some other reporting, the school board is thinking about eliminating altogether public comments. In fact, Mansfield, the chair, I
Seriously.
saw in the news that she said, "Well, having parents commenting it's a privilege, not a right." By the Virginia Constitution, no, the school board have to provide an outlet for public comments, and it's being a public servant. The way they're doing it is an oxymoron because you are serving the public, but you don't want to hear what the public has to say. So who are you
Right.
really serving? Because right now we have high schools and middle schools that have SROs, security forces, or people from the sheriff's department, and they have a great program to include DARE. And I can, you can search online what the DARE program is, which is mentors from the law enforcement teaching, drug prevention and things like that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have a great comprehensive plan, and we have a way that we can do it in a financially affordability way. But the school board is not taking that into consideration. So I'm very troubled by that because the high schools and middle schools are protected, but the elementary schools are not. Time from the school board. So I find that very curious, and I want to pull that thread and learn more about it, and know what are the arguments against protecting our children. I don't understand it. It doesn't pass the common sense test.
Hello, I'm your host, Krishna Kart. Welcome to the Learning by Design podcast. Today, I'm joined by Santos Muñoz, a candidate for the Loudoun County School Board, representing the Dallas District, a retired U.S. Air Force officer, dedicated public servant, and chair of the Education Committee on Virginia's Latino Advisory Board. Santos brings a life of service to his campaign. So we're here to talk about his story, his stance on education, and his vision for Loudoun County. Stay tuned. Hello. So thank you so much for coming, Santos.
Thank you
And we
so much
really
for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time. And, we wanted to steward our votes and wisely. And as you know, our listeners are into education. So this is a chance for the voters to get to know you. Like I've been here in Loudoun County and I haven't seen or even shook any hand of Loudoun County School Board. So I'm so glad that
I'm the current member you're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's a very common uh, comment I hear when I meet voters.
So talk about you were born in Carolina, Puerto Rico.
Well,
Yeah.
well, yeah. So I'm born and raised in Carolina, Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
That's the town where the airport, when you go to San Juan, that's the town that you visit is Carolina. And no, it was a great upbringing. It's I can only say only good things through school, whether I was in the Boy Scouts, which was one of the best things, and the one pivotal thing that happened
Mm-hmm.
uh, was one of the first classes, which was citizenship, to get that particular award, and that kind of left a mark that is throughout my career and the military career and everything. That sense of patriotism and service to others was planted while I was in the Boy Scouts. So I'm very grateful for that. And but yeah, normal upbringing. My mom and dad are also from Puerto Rico. They were born and raised there. They traveled to New York a couple times and in business and everything. In fact, my mom and my dad both met in New York, and then they got married, then moved to Puerto Rico, and that was where I was born. So everyone in Puerto Rico is a U.S. citizen as a result of the Spanish-American War in 1898, when a gentleman named Luis Munoz negotiated the peace treaty between the United States and Spain and Paris, and very savvy, recognized at that time they were going to give Cuba freedom from Spain or
Mm.
secession from Spain. But he negotiated, he was from Puerto Rico, he negotiated Puerto Rico being part of the payment from Spain to the United States. And that's how
Mm.
Puerto Rico became territory of the United States. It has been like that ever since. But then in the 1917, under the presidency of Woodrow Wilson, I believe,
Yeah.
that's when, by legislation, Congress authorized citizenship retroactively to 1898. So Puerto Ricans have been U.S. citizens ever since. So
Mm.
yeah, but yeah, my dad was a businessman. My mom went there to live with my grandmother that was living there from Puerto Rico, went there, and they met and fell in love, got married, and my mom said, "Hey, if I want to go back to Puerto Rico," and there I was born, and my siblings, and it was a normal childhood. It was great upbringing, but ever since I can remember, I was a dreamer. I wanted to be an astronaut, or I wanted to see the sands of the Middle East, or the mountains of Colorado, and or just buildings in Europe, and or just the East, Japan, and I was a dreamer. I was always looking, even though I was in an island paradise, over 200 miles of ocean, surrounding the island for beach and recreation. My head was always looking at all the locations that I read and
Oh.
things like that. So,
How old were you when you came here in the US?
so I graduated high school, went to college,
Mhm.
and while I was in the ROTC program, University of Puerto Rico, once I commissioned, uh, I got my orders to go to California as a second
Mm.
lieutenant, and that was 1996. So that since 1996. However, I still have family in New York, Florida, and other places. So it was very normal for my family to go to New York or Florida, or my relatives moving from there back to Puerto Rico. So going back and forth from Puerto Rico and the United States was a normal thing. I mean, almost a yearly thing that for vacation or Christmas, things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was uh, it was not a uh, it was a culture shock as an adult. Now I'm by myself, second lieutenant, going to California, and I have to figure things out. Leaving the United States, that was my first time, but visiting and all that stuff, that was a common occurrence in my family.
So what kind of values did your family instill in you growing up? And I didn't know if you talk about like how many siblings do you have, and then if you are like the oldest, because sometimes, like I'm the oldest, we're both oldest, and the oldest are like
So, so
yeah.
my family's it's big. My immediate family is big. So,
Oh, really?
my dad was a widower when he met my mom in New York. So my dad had from the first marriage, my dad, the first wife passed away from cancer. So he had four children
Yeah.
there, and they were significantly older. Uh, I mean, they were already married and with kids when my dad met my mom. I'll be the fourth in line, but the first and oldest between the marriage between my father and my mother. And then after me, there's a younger sister and brother.
Oh.
I would say that yes, I always consider myself the older of in the house, and as such some responsibility, especially when my father died of cancer. I was only 16.
Oh.
So yeah, I know. So I was yeah, in 11th grade, and senior year was very difficult for me because my dad was my hero.
Mhm.
And even though I have a short span of getting to know my dad, he made a lasting imprint in values such as hard work, dedication. He was big on taking chances, entrepreneurial. He was a businessman. He was a army veteran, but he also had after the army businesses and things like that. So he had that entrepreneurial spirit. Um, But by the time I was born, he was pretty much retired. So it was great having my dad and my mom at home as I was growing up, and my siblings as well. But yeah, that dedication to God and country, meaning service, it was instilled in me from very early, and compounded by my service in the Boy Scouts.
Right.
So that was another event that has shaped my whole worldview ever since I joined, and to the point that I continued to serve in scouting while still in college. I was an assistant scoutmaster in the troop I belonged to, and trying to pay it forward. There's always a need for to teach others and
Yeah.
pay it forward. That's why I was drawn to the military because it's one of those events that or careers in
Mhm.
which it's not for your own sake, it's for the greater good. And
True.
it was a natural calling, and one that I heard very loud early on, and it was a really a given. If you talk to my friends and family, people around me growing up, yeah, it was a given that I was going to join the military service or the Peace Corps. It would be something like that. So I'm very grateful for that and those values and piety. My mom was very religious, still is. She's 84 right now. And
Oh, there.
yeah, yeah, she's still in Puerto Rico with my sister and other family members. So it was a wonderful upbringing. My house still to this day where my mom lived, it's there's my house, one house, and then next to it is the church. So we were
Oh,
really
nice.
close. I mean, that doesn't prevent us to be late sometimes to go to church, but we were really close, and it was a very uh, one of those communities in which if I was with my friends running bikes around the neighborhood and we're probably doing something we're not supposed to, throwing rocks or whatever, uh, a mom over there would say, "Hey, kids," and call me out, kick us out back to the home, and then they will call my mom, and I will get a talking to as well. So it was, as they say, it takes a village. That was my upbringing in the 80s.
Right.
I'm a Generation X type of kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my upbringing.
Yeah, so it's very conservative, a
Very,
lot
very
of
conservative.
values. It seems like your parents did a great job, like
Right.
raising you.
I think for the most part, people in Puerto Rico, I can just speak for what I know.
Mhm.
They are very conservative. They like they don't want to be too much government intervention. They like to work hard. They are people that are very pious, religious, and they try to have that sense of community of the greater good. At least that was my experience growing up
Mhm.
around a lot of my neighbors, that whenever I go home, they say, "Hey, how you doing? How are things going?" And things like that. So it's and they enjoy each other's kids. We're talking about my parents and that generation. When kids come back to visit where our parents live, same area, they love the fact that they can go and enjoy each other's kids' achievements or certificates or whatever. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful community. Uh,
Mm.
very good, blessed.
Yeah, I hope we could go back to that era, right?
And no, yeah, I try to
Yeah.
visit as much as I can because of work and things like that is not always possible, but either a year or every 2 years, I try to, because my wife is from Puerto Rico too, and her story and upbringing is very similar to mine.
Mhm.
So we try to take vacation time to go home and also visit our parents and make sure that our kids that grew up in the military have
Mhm.
a little bit of insight and flavor of what it
Mhm.
was like for mom and dad growing up and things like that. That was always been very important to us, that
Yeah, tracing the
closeness
roots.
and culture tie.
Right. It's tracing the roots because nowadays, especially here in Northern Virginia area, the culture is different.
Mhm.
You cannot
It
see
is.
that culture anymore. Yeah.
I know, and it's funny you say that. I mean,
Hmm.
probably we can talk more in details, but when I received orders to, because before coming here, I moved to here in the same area because we were neighbors when we live nearby in the Dulles district in Loudoun County. When I get received orders in 2014 to move from Colorado to Virginia to do my Pentagon tour, up to that point, I chose to come to Dulles, to Loudoun County, because of the schools. That time, school
Mm.
had very good reputation, and so we moved. But a year or two, when you say that with kids and ties to culture, my kids grew up knowing that they were Americans. That's it. There's no much. I mean, we to say, yeah, we are Americans by birth, but Puerto Rican by the grace of God. So that's. But they, when we got here, a couple years later, they were asking questions that I never heard from them, like who am I, what am I, and things like that. And that was probably the first. I didn't know it at the time. We're talking about 2016, 2017. I didn't know it
How
at
old
the
are
time,
your
but
kids now?
huh?
How old are your kids now?
My oldest is 25 and my youngest is 21, two girls.
Oh, nice.
But when we got here in 2014, my oldest was in high school. She went to John Champ High School, and my youngest was in middle school. So she went to Mercer Middle School and continued to graduate to John Champ, and now she's in college, William and Mary. So
Right.
it's
Smart.
very proud of both of them.
Yeah, smart. So, let's talk about like your education, your and early ambition. So, why did you choose to pursue business and labor relations at the Inter-American University,
University.
Puerto Rico?
So to be an officer, you have to have a bachelor's degree.
Mm.
So I wanted to. So when I entered college, I went in an associate's program. I didn't know exactly. I was going to be the first one in my family from my older siblings, including going to college. So my dad didn't go to college, neither did my
Oh,
mom. So
your first generation. Is that
correct.
correct?
And so
That's
at that
something.
time, we're talking about 1980s, 89,
Yeah.
1990. Uh,
Mhm.
there was no internet, so it was hard. I unfortunately didn't have a good school counselor, so it was very hard to get information or see what my path was. Growing up, I dreamed of being an astronaut, but I didn't know how to get there. I mean, I saw movies and things like that, but so I went and at the last minute, pretty much. That's a longer story, but I joined the University of Puerto Rico in one of the associates programs, and then when I learned about, I just for a friend of mine, they point me out to the ROTC program or building in
Mhm.
campus, and it's like check it out. I register, and then that's when I saw a lot of kids. Although I had great relationships, still do with my high school friends. Um, in college in the RTC, I met a different kind of breed of kids that were pretty much dreamers like me on the military and those type of things, fans of the movie Top Gun, things like that. So it was another level of bonding and connection
Mhm.
that it was great. I didn't know I needed that, and we push each other up to all get commissioned in the ROTC program. So those lifelong friendships is something I treasure. So yeah, so I went there. I went from as associates because it was in business. I continued with business administration that way, and then I had to leave the ROTC program
Mhm.
so for a couple of years. So I finished my bachelor's degree, but then I went back to the ROTC program uh, when my bachelor's degree was completed, but you needed 2 years to complete the last 2 year. You need to be full-time student in order to complete the last 2 years of ROTC. So at that time, since I had a bachelor's degree, well, let me join a master's program. So I went to the Inter-American University. They had a program that it was very appealing, labor relations, and it
Mhm.
was very short in duration because I didn't want to overextend past 2 years. I wanted something that was exactly 2 years so I can complete the master's degree and then get commission and go in with a master's degree program. And so I did. That's why I picked that one because it was close association with business.
Mhm.
I understand the the struggle of the worker and some of those nuances of collective bargaining and how valuable it is to have adequate representation when appropriate from the business perspective as well as the worker class. Those are very vital and important things in our society. So that was calling to me in the degree. That's why I chose labor relations on that regard. And
That's
got
good.
commissioned and then was shipped to be a space and missile officer within the Air Force.
Yeah, it seems like I can see that you really are a goal setter. Yeah.
Yeah, you can say that. I, 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 when you say goal setter, I would say, yeah, I wanted to serve and do something for the greater good. But I didn't know, like, I want to have this particular rank or I want to do this particular career field. Those things happen, and I try to work my best to do whatever God was putting in front of me. And thank God for the skills and the blessings I've received in life and the education. I was able to meet the challenge at the moment in time in order to have a very successful career.
So looking back, how did your education influence your outlook or on leadership and service? Like I know you've talked about so much on that. So how do you think it impacted, your leadership and service? And I know it seems like part of it, it's kind of like following the footsteps of your father.
Yes, that is correct. It seems like because I lost my father so early, 16, as I mentioned, I always look for paternal figures in the military, leaders. I was drawn to reading the biographies of uh, like General Patton, World War II, because my dad was a World War II veteran.
Mm.
So it was that period of history was uh, very fascinating for me. So I looked at people like Eisenhower, people like that, and by reading their biographies and exploits, I got a sense of leadership. Also, maybe being the oldest in the family and then taking a more active role to protect my siblings when my dad passed away. That in itself is a leadership role plus leadership lessons as well as in the Boy Scouts, going through those ranks and being in charge of all the kids, teaching them first aid and things like that. That was also leadership. So when I say leadership, I don't equate that to education. It's more a set of experiences in life,
Right.
and you also have to have something that God gives you
Mhm.
in order to be an effective communicator and also to take bold decisions. Because
Mhm.
when it comes to leadership, again, I'm coming from a military background. The most important things of a leader is two things. If you want to, boil into the most simple thing, is to make a decision and maintain good order and discipline. Those are the most essential traits of a leader. And how you do that is always very depending on the type of teammates or subordinates that you have in your team or in your unit. You cannot be very like a dictator when your teammates are very self-sufficient and reliant. So you always have to tailor your leadership style based on the people that you have under your supervision or you alongside of you as teammates. It all depends. You have to leverage the skills and talents of people that people have in order to achieve the whatever objectives you have in life, in business, in
Right.
sports, you name it. So it was my leadership doesn't come directly from academic studies. It's more observing, learning, asking questions. I ask a lot of questions to people. And that shapes your worldview to a degree, and also because there's certain things that you're born with, and your culture and your upbringing from your parents that shapes your worldview, but also the what you observe and what you think that's effective, that is ineffective. That's what shaped my leadership style and predisposition to help others and take active roles in anything I set out to do.
Right.
That
And
makes
possibly
sense.
I'm thinking the life circumstances that God put in your life, like, being like 16 years old and you assume almost like the father role image in your house. So that's what I get from your narrative. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Well, it's just you, in regards to your service in the Air Force, do you have any defining moments during that journey?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
For years.
Uh,
Yeah.
Hmm.
no, there's a lot, obviously. Unfortunately, not everything can be said because many of the stuff I've dealt with from day one was top secret. You know, when you're doing the work with nuclear weapons, everything that you do is classified almost instantly.
Wow. Doing
However,
nuclear?
say again?
Cool. Nuclear weapons?
Yeah, so my first assignment coming out of officer training was Minot, North Dakota, to
Hmm.
be a missile launch officer. So quickly, I went through and became squadron lead, and then the big organization will be the entire group or wing. So when we went to the field, I was in charge of at the beginning of one launch control center, me and my crew partner, and we have 10 missiles which are somewhat about 3 nautical miles from each of the launch control center, with underground cabling and everything to connect with those. And each missile had that time 3 nuclear weapons. So eventually, I became to be the wing lead in the alternate command post in Minot, and that would be 15 capsules, each one with 10 missiles.
Wow.
So it's a very early on, instant responsibility, and especially when it comes to weather. I mean, winters in North Dakota are very brutal, and sometimes you
Yeah.
have to ask people to risk their life to go and check a security situation somewhere which is 3 or 5 miles away, and that young security officer team have to go there, and you know that the elements are not in their favor. But we have brave men and women to this day are sitting on alert, watching America from a strategic deterrence point of view, and peace to strength, really.
Hmm.
My hat goes out to all those young men and women out there that is to this day are sitting on alert, watch, keeping us safe. So, a special shout out to the 741st Missile Squadron in North Dakota. That was my first squadron.
Thank you so much for your service. I don't
My
think we,
pleasure.
yeah. So we're glad to.
But to answer the question you mentioned,
Mhm.
one significant event that I did during my time in the Air Force was in 2008, and I can say that because it's completely unclassified now. So if your listeners, Google or search Operation Burn Frost. It was
Hmm.
the name was called later on. So I was the co-lead. Me and another Army guy, we were the lead for this problem set. So let me go back. So when in December of 2017, the United States launched a rocket with a special big satellite. The satellite was about the size of a Greyhound bus, but that satellite failed to reach orbit, so it became an uncontrollable satellite. No power or anything. It was completely dead. So inside that satellite, there was a gas tank made of titanium, like a big sphere about the size of a dinner table, that held about I want to say 10,000 pounds of hydrogen, which is a gas that is used to maintain station keeping while satellites in orbit. So the concern there is that it was in a decaying orbit. So as it was going around the Earth, it was getting closer, closer, closer. So eventually, we'll re-enter the atmosphere and we'll land somewhere in the world. Nobody knew where, right? But the concern was that uh, tank of gas made of titanium could survive re-entry, would land in the ground somewhere. If it was a heavy populated area, it would crack like an egg, and those 10,000 pounds of hydrogen will dissipate, and it's 20 times more lethal than cyanide. So the concern of the threat of the human life was immense. So at the time, President Bush ordered, okay, I want that problem to go away. So when that decision was made, I was happy. I happened to be in Puerto Rico on vacation. So I was
Uh-huh.
with my wife walking in the beach, I remember. And then my boss called me and my cell phone. I pick it up and say, hey, Santos, when are you coming back from leave? I'm like, well, sir, I'll be there maybe a day or two because I mean, I already had the tickets and everything. So it's like, as soon as you get home, you come directly to the office, you have a task.
Oh,
So he couldn't tell me more than that, but I knew it was very serious. So when I got back, put my wife home and kids and everything, put my uniform, go to the office, and I got the briefing that of what I just told you. At that time was all very classified. So I said you have to get working, and it was me and another army guy. We decided to try to figure it out. So eventually, what we decided to do was to divide Operation Ben Frost in two phases.
mhm.
Phase one was trying to engage it with a missile from an Aegis cruiser and kind of intercept it. Imagine you are in, let's say, Ashburn, and we're here in South Riding. So just imagine a person launching a firearm in the air, and then someone in Ashburn launches another firearm. Imagine those two bullets trying to meet in the air. That's the
Mhm.
level of complexity that we
Oh
were
my
trying to
God.
fix. First time ever doing
Oh
that.
wow.
So yeah, it was just a bullet hitting
Nice.
another bullet somewhere in between the two launch points. Hopefully, it will happen. That's kind of level of
That is so cool.
I
Did they
know.
turn
So,
it into a movie
huh?
yet? Did they turn it? They should turn it into a
They
movie.
should turn it in a movie, especially
That is so
when we
cool.
launched it, when we did that, we calculated. I mean, we were leading about 200 experts from 14 different organizations around the globe trying to figure this one out. So it was around the clock from December when I got back home until the actual launch was in February 2018. Oh no, 2008. I'm sorry, 2008. So during the whole time, it was like 24/7. I did not see my wife pretty much because I would work about 15 hours, then go home, rest for a while, and then go back again. And then my crew partner, the army major, we would offset so we can do around the clocks because it could have landed anywhere in the planet. So we needed to talk to people in one side of the world, and when they were going to sleep, the other side of the world was getting up. So I had to coordinate with them what they were going to do. It was a around the clock effort. Uh, so we figured it out. We knew what to do. My wife was very upset because we like, what are you doing that you're never home? But I couldn't tell her. So when
Oh,
we
so even your wife, you
Yeah,
cannot.
just
no, I couldn't. No,
secure issue.
it was all
Oh,
classified. But the funny thing is, when we had the plan and we knew, we calculated when would be the last revolution in which it would enter, and we knew it was going to come somewhere in the Pacific. So the plan was to get an Aegis cruiser, which is a Navy ship, off the coast of Hawaii, and we modified a specific missile that they have. They call it Standard Missile 3. So they reconfigure their algorithm to kind of intercept that because normally those missiles are designed to intercept something in ballistic trajectory, not
Mhm.
something coming from Earth orbit in an unconventional type of uh, re-entry, if you will. So yeah, we did all that. I mean, we have people from NASA. In fact, NASA uh, published an article that the magazine was the NASA Ask, I think it was, is the name called, in which they did the power of networking because they were very impressed on the way we kind of communicated with, like I said, 200 people, 14 different government agencies around the clock. So we figure out a way to communicate effectively and try to organize ourselves because I mean everybody had an idea. So you have to, as the team leads, we had to be this, discern. Okay, you do this good idea, but we're moving with this other idea. It was hard, but very gratifying type of thing. So
Mhm.
the funny thing is that when we finally had the plan, we briefed it to the general officers. Um, we had to go to Congress to ask for the money to do everything that we needed to do. And
Mhm.
within an hour of the one general that was selected to go and brief Congress, it was all over CNN. So,
Wow.
so I was like,
That
oh
is
wow,
cool.
I know. So, but how that happened, I don't know. So what I did, because now I couldn't tell her, but my wife called and said, hey, go ahead and turn the TV right now, please. And my wife's like, oh, but what time you coming home? Like, I cannot tell you, but can you do me a favor and please turn on the phone, the TV. So she
Mhm.
turned the TV on. Sure enough, the new because it was all over the news
Really?
almost immediately, and all the channels. So
What time, what date is that? Do you remember the day?
that was February, the beginning of February of 2008.
Okay.
Because the engagement, I forgot the date, but it was early February 2008. So you can probably search online and you'll see it. The name of the satellite was USA 193 is the specific serial number of that satellite. So, but anyway, so my wife turns it on, and I can see it here on the other side of the phone, like, oh, okay, I get it. So don't screw up, okay? And then she just hung up because at that moment in time, she understood everything that I've been doing for, since December, missing school, from picking up my daughters or anything like that. I couldn't help because I was working on this at that time
Wow.
secret project. But no, it was great because when you say about, the essence of the movie, so we knew what the last orbit was going to be, more or less the time period. But the problem is that in orbit, at that level orbit, a satellite, it takes 45 minutes to go to the same location because it's
Wow.
going really fast around the Earth.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So we couldn't wait for the last rotation because at that time there was a storm coming in Hawaii. So by the time 45 minutes later, the storm will be in the position where the Aegis cruiser was going to be. So they had to launch one orbit shy of the full reentry. So they did, and I was in the command center in California, Vandenberg for Space Force Base now. And my boss calls me up. I see there was it was no explosion. It was pure kinetic. It was a missile impact this particular payload, but they put a electro-optical seeker or like a camera, so to speak, and it was putting real telemetry to the center where I was. I was next to my boss, and all I see is pitch black, and all of a sudden you see a white dot in the middle of nowhere, and it gets closer and closer, and all of a sudden you see that the silhouette of the satellite we're trying to hit, and it hit right where the tank is. So we knew that immediately we achieved mission success and no threat for humankind. It was a great feeling. So that
Mhm.
would be the crown jewel of all the things that I've done that is unclassified. So
Mhm.
That is so cool.
yeah,
Well,
I'm glad you like the story. I don't get
yeah, that is
shared
super
it that
cool.
often.
I think that's gonna be the central of this of the podcast would be that. I think I'm gonna attach something like whenever I make podcasts, I there's always like a blog accompanied to it.
Mhm.
So I might attach the blog.
Oh yeah, no, there's
Search.
plenty of footage on Operation Burn Frost and articles and things like that. So yeah, I'm sure you're gonna have like the banner on any particular
Yeah.
news, guys. Emergency update or breaking news. You'll have that. That will be a good thing to see.
That's
Well, I
nice.
was just thinking what you shared about collaboration comes in very handy in regards to governmental office
Right.
and say like a school board
Yeah. Oh my
example.
gosh. I think you're gonna hit. I'm thinking, I think God put those ones in your path. I don't know what type of, task you lay ahead of you in this school board.
It's not a it's not going to be an easy task because
As
the
big
school
as that.
board here in Loudoun County, as you know, has been in the not only news here locally in Virginia, but in the national news as well. There has been a lot of problems for a lot of years
Mhm.
since COVID. I would say there is always making the national news, not for the good things that they do, because there's a lot of good things that the Loudoun County School Board or the Loudoun County Public System is doing, but it hits the news for the some more controversial things that has happened. And unfortunately, if you do the root cause analysis on some of those problems, is nine times out of 10, it's related to a policy that the
Hmm.
school board have generated,
Sure.
not in the best interest of the public and the students and the teachers,
Correct. Correct.
but more like either a social experiment or special interests based on social engineering or you name it. There different motivation for different people.
Mm.
I cannot judge them. I kind of believe or want to believe that the things that they have done is in because they believe it's the right thing to do. However, going back to military terms, whenever you launch a missile or something, you in the military we always say you need to be aware of the secondary, tertiary effects of that particular weapon being employed. And I don't think in the case of the school board, whenever they launch a particular policy, I don't think they did the full thought pattern or a good method of this data-driven decision making that they can assess what would be the impact of that particular piece of policy or
True.
guidance. And obviously we're seeing it because of the fruit it has generated. Uh, in particular interest or recent, you probably know the story in the news about
Hmm.
Mm.
That's what I
the
want to ask you.
yeah the three boys that they just made a comment on of a female student there in their
Yeah, tell about that. Tell about that. Maybe because I don't think the media covered it. And I know you were there. We were not there because we were in, I believe we were in another event on Tuesday. I think it was Museum of the
But
Bible.
I do remember hearing the basic info.
Yeah, I believe Pastor Gary Hamrick asked us to go
correct.
there.
But
Yeah, that was a couple of
explain.
weeks ago. Just yesterday, I was there for another engagement in public comments. 'Cause,
Mm-hmm.
'Cause the school board meets twice a month,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
second and last Tuesday of the month. So this yesterday was an event, but I guess a couple of weeks before that, that was another event in which it was after a sermon given by the pastor. On the public comments on that particular meeting, there was a lot of folks there trying to speak their concerns as community members on the school board and the rejection of policy 8040, which is the policy.
Yeah, so maybe can you please elaborate on that and then give the context of our, because we did not know it until Pastor Gary Hamrick talks about, RA 8040. So if you can please kind of like give us a context for those who
Yes,
are new,
yes,
what
of
is
course.
RA 8040, and
Yeah,
then what happened like with those, with the girls identifying as boys.
correct. So the policy 8040 was enacted by the current school board around 2021. My understanding was that it's specifically written and designed to protect children that have gender dysphoria. Uh, uh, they believe that they were born or are in a body
Different than theirs.
different than what they were given to to them at birth. So
Mm.
that's kind of the genesis of that particular piece of policy. My understanding is that the current chair, who happens to be sitting in the Dulles District position, which I'm seeking to be elected to, she has, what I've seen in the news, she has, I guess, a transgender niece.
Oh, what's her name? So
I,
the one who's
I
sitting right now in our Dallas
It's
district.
Miss Melinda Mansfield is her name. The school board chair and the member representing us here in the Dulles district.
Oh no,
Or they're supposed to be representing us.
Mhm.
So
a lot of misinformation.
yeah, no. So
Yeah.
she's the not only the chair but the representative for Dulles, and she's as I understand it is the main force that came up with this policy and enacted the policy. Not every member in the school board is a school board in Loudoun County, and you had them a podcast with Amy Riccardi, who's also
Cardi.
run. She did a very good explanation. I remember seeing the podcast in which she run down the what the Loudoun County division of school is and all those things, and she gave a lot of statistics on that. So I will direct your viewers to go back and watch that interview with Amy Riccardi. It's phenomenal. She's a great leader. Hopefully, she will also. She's running for office for the Sterling district. I'm running for office for the Dulles district. So she's a phenomenal leader. Hope she gets elected, and I hope I get elected too.
Of course,
Because
we want you. We
yeah,
want you to get elected.
yes. So she Miss Mansfield has a niece that is transgender. Has gender dysphoria, and empathic about the situation. I think she was inspired to kind of fuel the policy and write it. However, the problem is that it's a specific piece of policy that is to addressing that particular population, which is less than 1% of the total student body.
Right. And then the
And
policy itself is, I don't even know why they should be helping them, like in counseling, not that.
yeah,
That's
well,
the question.
me personally, had I been there, so this is one of the problems I have with this particular policy specific for one sector of students, which we all should love and encourage to find their goal in life and provide a good education. I mean, I love all kids. It doesn't matter if they have a medical condition, whether it's mental or physical. We should love and care for every child, regardless of either their gender or ethnicity or religion, race. It doesn't matter. I mean, children are children. My job, if elected, is to protect and provide a safe environment for every single child. That's
Mhm.
period and discussion. Drop the mic. That's it. However, this particular piece of policy provided an extra measure for children that have that particular set of circumstances in life in which they believe they are of the opposite gender as they were biologically they are. So the I believe she was empathic of that struggle, and but she created a policy that people like myself are critical of, not because we don't like those type of children, it's because the policy, the way it was written, it has a lot of loopholes, and children,
Mhm.
like happened in 2021, there are boys that will take advantage of the loopholes in that particular policy, and they will go into private spaces of girls, and there was two sexual assault cases in that at that time frame in which a
Right.
boy identified as a girl went to a woman's bathroom, assaulted one girl in one school, then the kid was
Oh,
transferred, and that was not transparent to the parents, the community large.
That was the Stonebridge, right?
Yeah,
That
correct.
was the Stonebridge High
The
School
second,
before?
yeah, yeah.
mhm.
So then goes to another school, and then the boy does the same thing because of that particular policy and the abuse of it. I would say repeal the entire
Mhm.
policy,
Mhm.
and
True.
they just encourage kids that have gender dysphoria to use other mechanisms already in place, like the American Disability Act, Section 504 or IAP. There are other mechanisms that can provide protection and also a safe environment for those children,
Mhm.
regardless of the medical condition. I mean, it doesn't matter, but they should have just continued. That particular population could have used those existing programs that are federally regulated and have reasonable accommodations to the set of circumstances. I don't think that creating a policy just for that particular population of kids was wise. And like I mentioned
Mhm.
earlier, they did not anticipate the secondary or tertiary order effects from that
Mhm.
particular ill-conceived policy. That is my criticism. And but again, I cannot insist and explain this enough. We love all children, and those kids with their particular struggles in life should be welcomed, safe, and all the
Mhm.
civil liberties of every child and adult, I'm talking about the professionals that take care of our kids and provide a good education, those civil liberties have to be protected at all costs. And we have laws at the state and federal level that provides that, and there should be procedures in case those civil liberties are discriminated against, in which we can take action and continue to provide a safety, healthy environment for everybody to thrive.
Yeah. So give us an update now because I know you've spoken last time there. What's the latest
Yeah, so
update
so
on
so
that?
so
Yeah.
so in my whenever an opportunity it is, and I hear from parents and even teachers around the Dulles district, I try to get from them what their concerns are and provide that voice of common sense for parents and teachers and even students. Today I was meeting a young man that is a product of Loudoun County Schools and just graduated from George Mason University, and he was sharing with me some of his concern when he was going to school and the lack of meritocracy. He's from Indian descent, so he was saying how sometimes he felt like he had to work, and I've felt that too. You know, twice as hard to be half as good. Even though he had the credentials, he felt that there were some discriminatory actions to go to, like Thomas Jefferson and things like that. Again, as a result of different school bodies, but as it relate to Loudoun County, he felt that that the hard work he was doing was not recognized because of uh, providing special accommodation for other type of students. When you work hard, I mean, you should reap what you sow. So he
Mhm.
was very concerned about those things. But in the case of the policy, the latest and greatest is that it's still in effect. I have voiced my opinion about it, not necessarily because it's against any particular uh, group of children. It's about the ill-conceived way in which the policy was issued and not enacting or encouraging already pre-existing processes in order to have a reasonable accommodation and protection for any marginalized group, whether it's medically or 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 any other type of situation. So that's my criticism, and I think it should be repealed, eliminated, and then just continue with the normal processes. However, uh, I'm asking because it would not happen with the current people there. So I'm asking them at least just take a vote so people know where you stand and at least open the discussion to make a revision based on the circumstances and the cases that have been brought to justice. And so now all the way up to, I guess, the Attorney General of the United States, per the Attorney General of Virginia. So these are things that they have done and created, and for whatever reason, they don't listen to what parents and concerned citizens are saying, and that's just the state of affairs as of right now, in the month of June of 2025. So we'll see
That
how that happens. What happens next, I guess.
just the aspect about parental rights, you've touched on that, and
Hmm.
just the aspect about um, how to wisely handle that matter in the school board realm.
Mhm.
So
I'm so
yeah,
glad you're listening to the parents, though, because
correct, and that is I think that is the crux of the matter. So, in fact, Amy Riccardi, in the meeting that we had yesterday, she made a phenomenal argument on the lack of transparency and engagement from the school board representative to the constituency.
Mhm.
She said that many, if not all of them, but for sure, the majority that are pushing some of that ill-conceived policy that I talked about, they don't do newsletters. They don't go and have town halls. They don't engage with the community that they're supposed to be representing. So they are pretty much isolated in the ivory tower, and they're a group of elitists that they believe they are right in all circumstances, which is not. And so they have rejected the notion that the parents, have a say in what happens to their own children. And that is the major disconnect between the current leaders in the school board and people like myself, that we say, no, you work for the parents.
Mm-hmm.
They are the taxpayers. If you put it in business perspective, because that's my background too, any company, whoever is paying is right. You should listen to that. I mean, because what we do, the customer is not the kids, it's the parents. We parents pay taxes to allow the government to develop a curriculum to teach
Mm-hmm.
our children and have the infrastructure for that, right? So, but in this case, they don't listen to the customer. We're saying, okay, there's a problem. It's affecting my child, and how dare you, school board or the government, overthrow my concerns or make a decision contradicting to what I want for my own child. And that disconnect is getting larger and larger and larger. Case in point, the school board had a retreat on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and what we hear, and was highlighted by Amy Riccardi yesterday, they are considering, because they took away the cameras in the school boards, right?
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah, so
interesting.
you can't see what's happening, or
Hmm.
when parents are
Wow.
having public comments. So that
That's
was some time ago, and now they reduced the amount of time. And then according to Amy and some other reporting, the school board is thinking about eliminating altogether public comments. In fact, Mansfield, the chair, I
interesting.
saw in the news that she said, well, having parents commenting, it's a privilege, not a right.
Oh
But
my gosh.
by the Virginia
Mhm.
It's,
Constitution, no, the school board have to provide an outlet for public comments, and it's being a public servant. The
mm-hmm.
way they're doing it is an oxymoron, because
Mm-hmm.
you are serving the public, but you don't want to hear what the public has to say. So who are
Right.
you really serving? So it is a frustrating thing for me as a parent, for me as a
Yes.
taxpayer, and so hopefully for you too, and the people you're
Of
listening,
course.
that they are not living up to the standard that is expected of them as public servants. Again,
Yeah.
they're making that adjective, that noun, an oxymoron, because they don't care about the public, and they're not serving anyone but themselves. So it's very frustrating. It's one of the things that as I enter this race, trying to provide the greater good for my community, Dulles District, I
Mm-hmm.
see more of that, and it's irritating, the fact that they don't have that commitment of helping others. It's all about self-serving
Yeah.
platitudes, and some sort of power trip, in
That's
my
like,
humble opinion.
yeah, that's so
And,
authoritarian.
and
That's
that's a very good way, an in into going after, a position, elected position there on the school board, is that you promote transparency.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um,
And whenever the last couple times I've gone and spoken in the public comment section, I try to go into social medias, outlets or platforms, and post exactly what I just said in a transcript. I did it last night or this morning for the last night's speech. And yeah, no, you should be transparent, and you should be accessible to those you serve, which they don't. At least,
oh,
uh,
okay, that's another
yeah,
thing.
that's a key. I mean, it's access. If you don't do town halls, you don't do newsletter, you don't have means to receive information, and have a dialogue with those you serve, how can you really serve in the capacity that you were elected?
Right.
I
Mhm.
mean, from my point of view, from my vantage point, it's self-serving for them. And if elected, that's not at all what I'm going to be doing. I mean, I believe in leadership by walking around. And what I mean by that is, if you are responsible for a mission, people, or assets, you
Mm-hmm.
want to be there, not virtually, but present. Virtually present is the same as actually absent. So you have to be there with the people, ask questions, and make sure things are working correctly, right? At least that's how I grew up in the military, uh, from the leadership point of view. So why would you not go out into do town halls, and engage with people in an
Mm-hmm.
open and honest way? if you're doing something that they are objectifying that you shouldn't be doing, you need to know that. But also, if there are things that you're not doing that they want you to do, you need to be accessible to receive that feedback and do something for your constituents. See, it's as simple as that. And the chair is not doing it. Many of the other members are not doing it. And although the chair is not seeking re-election, it's going to be a vacant seat. My understanding is that they're looking for. She's looking, and some of the people that got her elected are looking for someone that can be just like her. And I could not be any more different or opposite of what she is, and whoever the heir apparent might be. I don't know who that person might be, or people, I don't know.
Yeah, we want transparency.
Yeah, exactly.
We want transparency.
And accessibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. Transparency and accountability. Those things go hand in hand. So it's fine that if you make, I don't expect in my experience in leadership, no one is infallible. You will make mistakes. You need to own them and then make corrections and amends for whatever you did wrong. Because again, I'm a flawed person. I'm not perfect, but I want to make sure that I'm accountable for the things I do and say, and that what transparency is all about. And accountability for when you make a mistake, own it but fix it. Don't
Yeah.
just hide it or anything like that.
Yeah, so I was like kind of like browsing through your kind of like Facebook post, and then you reference somewhere that about the 2025 federal ruling and Governor Youngkin's guidance.
Correct.
So can you talk a little bit about that, and why do you believe the Loudoun County Public School has not aligned with those? Like, what is that the federal ruling?
So there was a case that went to federal court in which I think it is all related to policy 8040, in which they determined that there and executive orders from the current administration at the federal level that determined that they're boys and girls, male and female. That's how we were born. It has nothing to do with theology. It's all basically basic science and biology. And so there was a court ruling at the federal level that talked about that, and also there were mirror policies that our current governor instituted by his power of the pen and executive orders do that, provide parents' rights or restitute them or put them in more emphasis, creating a safe space for all type of children, right? So it seems even though that those mandates have come from the federal level, and also at the state level, the school board has not reacted to it. All the school boards or school divisions they have, but Loudoun County has not. They have doubled down in
Really?
a refusal of taking action or pivot to whatever is in law or by executive decision. They don't want to. And now the problem with that, I want to say that Amy probably touched on that. When you refuse, for instance, federal guidelines, and it has been stated by the federal authorities,
Yeah.
that you're putting at risk money, somewhere around the vicinity of $48 million. Most of that money goes to Title I schools. Title I school is a school that a majority of the population live below poverty line. So it provides food and breakfast for those children. Also fuels or funds federal programs such as the Junior ROTC program, which we have one Navy-centric one. We would love to have one Air Force-centric. But that's a topic for another day. But the Junior ROTC program is federal funded. So those things may go away if the school board doesn't make a pivot and rectify or correct the mistake they have made as far as policy. So those are the things that I'm kind of referring to there in that particular statement that I made.
Yeah. Well, before we dwell into some other issues, I wanted you to maybe clarify because I've heard from some of the posts, like some believe repealing RA 8040 could harm transgender students.
Mhm.
So how do you respond to that concern? Maybe, a lot of this media misinformed the public. So what
So,
would
so,
be,
so, so I would tell you, so basic understanding of 8040 is, like I mentioned before, is a special provision to provide uh, some special accommodations for children with gender dysphoria. However, it has harmed girls. We have cases in which that policy has been used for sexual assaults of girls that is known already, the case
right?
in 2021. But however, as I talk to other parents, uh, it has hurt other children,
Yes.
especially girls.
Mm-hmm.
And and also not just physically, but also emotionally. But uh, you can say financially because there are boys, male at birth, boys that has identified as girl and are competing in
Course.
girl sports and put at risk the future potential for biological girls to have scholarships because they go in and overshadow their performance of girls. I mean, these are kids that they're not doing anything to change their chemistry, body chemistry, or biological prowess. However, they overcome the girls in sports. So it's about justice and fairness.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You know, they disguise it as equity, but really it's not fair or
Yeah.
just. I
Yeah.
mean,
I,
when
I I will freak out, like,
Mm.
even in the gym, facing, I think even adults, not just girls, but ladies. It's like,
absolutely,
oh, I will freak out.
yeah, absolutely, Mike. And that's the problem. They say that it's going to hurt kids that are transgender, but
If,
it
even
doesn't hurt them.
adults.
It's hurting other kids,
Mm-hmm.
and their suffering. It's as valuable or as important or of concern, and it's more kids that is hurting than it's that is not hurting. Because if you just eliminate altogether 80/40, you will have and you make sure with good education and protections that no kids is harmed. I mean, it's harming kids right now, but if you restore that, then you make special accommodations for those children if they go through the 504 program or IAP or similar ways. You can make affect those kids, but there are other kids that are not gender, don't have gender dysphoria or anything, and they are using the policy to do
Right.
harm,
Yes.
and that is the crux of the matter. Not seeing it for what it is, it's unacceptable.
Mhm.
And I could tell you that going through middle school and high school with my children, I never saw and this is even I think yeah even before 80/40 was enacted, children that were transgender or identified on a different sex or anything, they were very well taken care of at least in John Shab High School and Mercer. Well, you
Mm-hmm.
know, my kids are have very good friends with children that uh, were identified as transgender. There's no problem. And still to this day, they are friends and they have friends. I have grown their friend circle with kids are transgender. And there's no problem. They're safe. There's no attacks that I know of. And I have asked there's no attacks against transgender in Loudoun County or anything like that. So it's a policy that opened the door for abuses versus rescuing
I
anyone,
understand. Mhm.
as far as I know.
Yes.
If there has been abuse or anything,
It's,
or violation of civil liberties, there are recourses to mitigate that.
mm,
If but they're not using it. They just went in a knee-jerk reaction to anticipating something that was not there. In other words, I put it in simple terms, it was a solution in search of a problem. There
mhm.
was no problem, and they created a solution, and now they are going and citing statistics and reports that are no relevance in Loudoun County. They say, well, in California, this, that. That's not Loudoun County. Oh, in this part of the world, that's not Loudoun County. Again, it was a solution in search of a problem, and that is the problem that we have with the current leadership in the school board that
Right.
hopefully will be removed, and people with
Hopefully.
common sense like myself or Amy Riccardi and others, we can go there and restore hope and go back to fundamentals of teaching. And
Yeah,
it
that would be
Mhm.
nice. That would be nice. So what do you think? So we've talked a lot about parental rights
Mhm.
and how it looks like in practice. So what do you think when you get elected, how does it look like? What would you do differently to yeah.
So it's basically who am I, who I am for it's what is different. I mean,
Mm,
the way I lead, the way I make decision, I'm a data driven decision maker. So you have to first look at the data and the information that you have available to determine what is the root cause of a problem, and then find an adequate solution. That's the way I operate in the military, in life, in business, you name it. But you have to ask questions, and you also have to go and reach out to even people that disagree with your policies to understand what the pros and cons are. None
mm,
of that, from what I can see, is a common practice in the current leadership in the school board. So, and that's as a result, you see all the policies that are causing harm to children.
mm,
So, what it looks like, it's just doing what's right at the right time. So, and the process in which you do it with discord, dialogue with the parents and experts, obviously, and also you being an individual critical thinker and asking the right questions. There has been many meetings that I've been in the school board in which something like, for instance, with money is raised, and the majority of school boards, I mean, there are one or two people that ask questions, and they are quickly drowned by the majority and say, don't, these are not the drawers you're looking for. No, you have to ask questions and address those concerns. I mean, it is it baffles me that they don't take seriously their role.
mm,
And the school board, in business term, think of it, the London County public system, pretty much every system in public schools in Virginia, like a company. You have any company, you name it, has a board of directors that are the owners of the company, and then they hire a CEO to run the company. You say Apple, you name it. The school
mhm,
board is like that. You have the school board, who's the owners of everything, and then they hire a CEO called the superintendent, and that person runs the operation for that particular company, or in this case, the public school system. It's my perception that is the tail leading the dog, or when the dog. So because the superintendent, it seems like it's going and push things through to the school board, and the school board rubber stamp whatever he is pushing. There's
mhm,
no accountability. There's no uh, true exercise of the authority, the executive authority that the board should have by the Constitution of Virginia. So those are the things that will change immediately. I mean, I will ask the questions. I am in control because I'm the elected leader, and I have to represent my constituency, the people in Dulles,
mm,
and make sure that there's transparency and we know what the school board or the superintendent is doing and how he's doing it, or she,
mhm,
if he decides to quit and go and someone else comes in, we have to make sure that whoever the individual is in charge of this as the superintendent is accountable to the board, and is presenting the data that is required for the board to make decisions. And right now, for what I've seen, that's not happening. So those are things that will change overnight the moment I get sworn in, if I'm elected by the good people of those district, and make sure that things are marching according to as should be.
mhm.
Hopefully that
So
answers
I hope I hope you guys can still repeal the, RA 8040.
that is something that if it's not done before if I'm elected before I take office, that's one of the first things we'll take into the business agenda. At least I will
Mhm.
propose it,
Mhm.
Oh, that's
because
good.
the people in Dulles District, the people I talk to, uh, the silent majority.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want it. And once they know what's happening, because most people don't know what's happening. And
Mm-hmm.
even you're asking
Media
questions,
did not
you're
cover it.
more connected than the average person, the average citizen.
Yeah.
So you can say that people don't know what's happening because people here in Loudoun County where we live, there's a lot of dual income parents, households. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you, by statistic, if you go down the street, you will see everything houses, seven of them are living paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So they are very much invested in their everyday life, so much that they don't have time to be going and leaving work and going to the school board and check with those things.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes an extra effort to be involved in that at that level. So they assume, like I was for a long time, oh, there's good common sense people there. They should be doing the right thing. But come to when I start peeling the onion and see what the mess that we are right now and the reasons why we have the mess that we have right now, is very apparent that people with common sense have left the public square, and in the vacuum, people go in with either endorsed by special interests or you name it, or ambitions of something greater than just serving the public. And that's where we see it right now. Those are the things that will change almost drastically if I'm elected.
Yes.
And there's 5 seats in this coming election in November of 2025. So if we have new people with common sense approach, it would be there's 9 seats altogether in the board. So
Okay.
Okay.
we could have consensus with like-minded individuals in
That would
that
be
sense.
nice. We will be praying
Mm.
for that.
And just aspect about putting a halt to indoctrination
Oh gosh,
of the
yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
I have real problems with that.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
induct.
we want education, not indoctrination. We want to teach them how to think, not what
Right.
to think, and
Right.
that is a very notable thing in my platform, and something I'm very much looking forward to make sure it's the norm. You know,
Yeah. Well, you are the chair of the Education Committee on Virginia's Latino Advisory Board.
correct.
So, what are the key issues facing Latino families in Loudoun County?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, in the I was appointed by the current governor to be part of the Virginia Latino. The government of Virginia has about over 300 different board and commissions. Each one is a different focus. You have boards on agriculture, veteran affairs, engineering, women's issues, African American issues, Asian issues. So I'm part of the Latino advisory board, who focuses on Latino and advises through an annual report to the governor, whoever the sitting governor is. The board has been in place since I think 2004. It was the governor at the time that was entered the existence of that board into law. So the members of the board, each member is appointed for 4 years. So I was appointed in 2023. So I will continue to serve my full tenure, whoever the next governor is going to be. But the goal of that is the 21 members in the board, and it's divided in 4 committees: housing, healthcare, education, and business. And I'm the chair of the education. So during the year, we do town halls and go to events in order to listen to what are the concerns from the education perspective, which is your question specifically. I notice a lot of parents talking about some of the same issues that we talked about already
Mm-hmm.
in the Latino community. Culturally speaking, it, it they have a strong sense of justice and fairness, and they don't believe that boys should be in the safe spaces of girls. I mean, I'm a
Right.
father of 2 daughters. You know, the you it hurts me to
Mm-hmm.
know that there are elements of policy and that will put my precious daughters in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I'm wired. That's who I am as a person.
That's why there's a lot of mass exodus from public school system because of these policies.
Yeah,
Oh.
yes, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. So the having safe environments that focus on education, not indoctrination, is
Right.
key for the Latino community since I've been in the board and chair of the education committee. I hear it all across Virginia because I mean we do those town halls in different places, and the last one was here in Northern Virginia a few weeks ago. Before that was in Richmond. I think the next one will be in Virginia Beach, and I think the one after that I don't think has to be determined. But we go a couple times a year, and we gather at town hall and do meetings that we try to get information so we can do an annual report to the governor and on the things that we see and things that and recommendations that we may be providing for the good and welfare of the community I'm representing, which is the Latino community. So yeah, that level of fairness is one that is
Mhm.
not only for safety, but
Mhm.
also for academics. I mean, we just like I told you about that young man that I met earlier today. He's from the Indian community here in the Dulles district. Latinos have the same issues. I mean, they work hard and they should deserve the same level of success as any other child. Doesn't matter. But sometimes they feel like they are left behind, especially in the Sterling area, for instance.
Yeah.
You have a lot of kids that first generation Americans, and
Mhm.
sometimes they feel they're disadvantaged because of the language barriers or the way they learn. Uh, from the Latino perspective, and again, this is how I grew up. Whenever you're learning how to read,
Mhm.
they may say, "Hey, uh, can you give me that red ball?" or that blue cup or that yellow pencil. There's always an adjective associated with the object. So we are very visual from the Latino perspective. That's how I grew up learning. So they might be that first generation of Americans. Maybe there might be ways that we can adopt. Changes in the education system when there's a majority of a particular demographic.
Mhm.
I believe there was some statistics that I thought I saw that someplace like Fairfax, it's also Sterling, I believe too. It's a majority minority, meaning that the majority of the population, the student body, are what people call minority kids, Latinos specifically. So if they are from like a first generation Americans, they may have a different language barriers that they have to do. So in situationally speaking, you can probably have a set of policies that are regional. And when I mean regional, let's say that's the area of Sterling, in which the curriculum might be adopted for that particular
Mhm.
section of the population.
Yeah, personal.
Those are the things that I gleaned um, from the Latino conversations I had over the year.
So they want the, like, for example, of course, the basic, like the reading and writing and math.
Exactly. That's that's
Wow.
that's what they want. I mean,
Yeah, of
they
course.
people from the Latino community that I've talked to, they don't care about the indoctrination on ideologies of any kind. I mean,
Yeah.
they come with the expectation, I want to provide an education for my kids that I probably didn't have from whatever country I came from.
Yes.
So they want that education, that ability for that particular child to grow up to the fullest potential that kid may have by the grace of God. So when they are faced with other types of things that are not con conducive to that particular goal in mind that they expect, it is a problem for them, and they have shared that concern many times over the course of my tenure as the chair of the education committee.
That's good. That's good to know.
Thank you.
Because I've never heard some, of course, I never get in conversation with, although I served when I was in a reading specialist, I served, a lot of Latino communities. But I'm so glad that they are aligned with, with common sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be surprised. The great melting pot, I believe, it's the military.
Mhm.
So you doesn't matter where you come from, what your last name, social economic background, it doesn't matter. You enter the service, you're wearing the uniform just like everybody else. And I believe that in the core, we are all just people.
Mm-hmm.
There's no that's why I always taught my daughters to, yeah, when they say who you are, you're an American first.
Mm-hmm.
I never understood why you would identify in something other than American. So that's why when we moved to Virginia and when they first came here within a year, well, actually maybe like 2 years in the school system here, they were asking questions such as, what am I and things like that. I'm like, you're an American. So, "Well, but what kind of American?" Like, well, you're my daughter. You're. I did not understand what they were coming from, where the question was coming from, but it was more coming from the school system, the indoctrination. They were playing uh, identity politics,
Oh my God.
and things like that. I did not understand it until probably 2020 or 2019, during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
that so many, I thought it was an isolated incident, but then I realized that some of the things that were emanating from the news and
Yes.
parents and critical race theory and everything, that okay,
Yes.
and then I like, oh, now I get it. That's why the change on the questions on their identity came from, because it was being asked and pushed in the school system. So that's when during COVID or shortly after that, that's when I realized, okay, there are problems here. And from the Latino community and from no matter what community, we are a people. We
Mm-hmm.
deserve the same level of respect, dignity, and opportunities like everybody else. And I think we make too much emphasis on those differences instead of focusing on what's common for everybody, which
Right.
is,
That's a very good
like
point.
what the Declaration of Independence says, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the
Right.
bottom line.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Hmm.
Now, what's other things that voters might not know about you that we haven't talked about, but should? So, kind of like your final words to the voters. What do they need to know about you that we haven't talked in the podcast?
Okay. I would say the love of people that I
Mm-hmm.
have. I I love talking to people. I'm a people person. I believe that every person has a story and a song that they just want to tell, and I want to hear those. I want to make sure that I capture your essence. If elected by this office, I will provide a sense of obviously duty and solemn oath to the people that all the people, whether they vote for me or not, but also carry with me when I'm there making decisions, uh, a little bit of the stories I hear and everything, because I want to be able to fully represent everybody in the Dallas district and be able to get up in the morning optimistic that what I'm going to do good for the sake of others. That's always in my mind, even when I go to the school boards meetings, which I'm not obviously elected official, but when I go there, it's like what I can go. So I'm very optimistic. I looked. People say there are people that may see a glass half empty. I always see it half full. I
Mm-hmm.
I look at what is around the river bend. I know there's going to be something good there. I'm optimistic. I'm curious, and I think hopefully people can take that with them and say, this is a person that I think I can trust and has my back, and I will. And that's that you can take that to the bank. I think that's the best thing I can say as we're closing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how can people get involved with your campaign?
That I will invite everybody to go to munozforva.com. So Munoz,
Just for the.
Munoz,
Mm-hmm.
zebra F-O-R-V-A. And if you don't know how to spell VA, then you need to go back to school. But anyway, that's my website. I think that's one of the first and ways that you can see what I believe in, a little bit more about my story. And we have links in the website that point to our social media platforms. I'm trying to be transparent and provide real updates as I know them. So one of the best things that you know exactly what I'm up to and what and how I'm reacting to things is by going to those social media platforms and either subscribing or liking, so you can know next to real time what's happening with me, what my reactions are, what I'm thinking, and I provide a lot of updates. Right now, I'm very concerned about the lack of understanding on what Sheriff Chapman's SRO program is, because right now we have high schools and middle schools that have SROs, our security forces or people from the sheriff's department, and they have a great program to include DARE, and you can search online what the DARE program is, which is mentors from the law enforcement teaching, drug prevention and things like that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have a great comprehensive plan, and we have a way that we can do it in a financially affordability way. But the school board is not taking that into consideration. So I'm very troubled by that because the high schools and middle schools are protected, but the elementary schools are not. Time from the school board.
What?
So I find that very curious, and I want to pull that thread and learn more about it, and know what are the arguments against protecting our children. I don't understand it. It doesn't pass the common sense test. So those are the things that I want to talk and explore more. And you'll see it if you go to my website and then you subscribe to my social media platforms. You will get all updates. As I find it, I will make a comment on it, and you will have it real time. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you so much. This is like awesome.
thank
And
you.
we'll definitely, I will definitely create a blog post, and that we get attached to your website,
Thank you.
and we will continue to, campaign for you, especially in
Yeah, no.
we want
Please,
change. We want
yeah,
change in the Loudoun County.
absolutely. Please pray for me, and if you can support me and in contribution, it takes money to be able to run a campaign and get my message across the district. So please subscribe, contribute, and pray for me.
We will. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And yeah,
It was fun.
great conversation. Thank you so much. It's so great to know you.
Thank you.
And we will continue to pray for your protection, for you and your family. That's a huge sacrifice, just running. That's a huge sacrifice. So thank you so much for your services in the
My pleasure.
military, and for your future service in the Loudoun County School Board. And I
We hope.
we
We
will
pray.
we will
hope.
pray. Yeah,
It would be my pleasure.
yeah. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, and have a great night.
Goodbye.
Take care. God bless.
God bless. Bye.